It's time for the Your Personal Bank Show with Ferenc Toth. In an era of chaos, confusion, and craziness, Ferenc is a voice for common sense. As a financial literacy educator, speaker, and entrepreneur, Ferenc cuts through the noise to help us understand how current events affect our money, economy, and our freedom. Now, here's Ferenc Toth.
Welcome to the Your Personal Bank Show. This is Ferenc. If you want to reach me, you can do so at yourpersonalbank.com. Yes, you will reach me. It's yourpersonalbank.com. I have been receiving a lot of inquiries recently regarding index products, the information I've been sharing, how we ensure you maximize returns by not only looking at the products, but looking at the indexes, the actual performance of those indexes, which is proprietary information. Very few people have access to that, by the way. Even early in my career, I didn't either, and it's truly a game changer. And I've used the analogy of if you want to win a horse race, you have to have a fast horse and a good rider. The horse is the index. You have to be invested in a good index that has the potential for good, strong upside gains. And folks, there's over 600 indexes available on these products. It's not publicly issued information. It's hard to find. And so having access to this proprietary software that gives us the 1, 5, 10-year performance of all these indexes is, again, truly game-changing. The other thing I want you to understand is about 80% of the indexes, do you know, on annuities and IULs only average low single-digit returns over the past decade? About 20% have good, strong average returns, many of them 10, 12, 15% even. Average annual returns over the past decade. There is a huge difference in what index you're in. It's the difference of running a horse race, riding a thoroughbred versus a plow horse. There's nothing wrong with plow horses, but they're not good at winning races, are they? If you're invested in an index that has never averaged, say, more than 3, 4, 5% annually over the past decade, what's the likelihood of it to do so in the next decade? Pretty low. And there's a lot of reasons behind it. It's what they're invested in, the management team. Most people understand this if you're looking at a mutual fund and you review a Morningstar report. It shows the actual performance of these indexes. I get this question all the time. Most people are like, well, why didn't my advisor or agent share that with me? Folks, the reason is they're not aware that this information even exists in most cases. I didn't either in my early years in the industry. This is my 26th year. I was literally top 10 in annuity sales in the country with one of the top annuity companies in the country. And I was unaware that this information exists. And many people often ask, well, how does the agent or advisor choose the indexes? Well, some of it is from the marketing teams, the people that are telling us what is a better index than others. So we rely on their information. But of course, some of it's marketing, obviously. Some of it is through experience or taking educated guesses, looking at indexes in terms of what their potential upside may be. But the reality is, unless you actually have a performance report showing the 1, 5, 10-year actual returns over the past decade, you're kind of flying blind. And one of the things that I do with people that meet with me, and they find this very, very educational, I pull back the curtain, much like in The Wizard of Oz, and show you behind the scenes what is actually going on. I will show you these indexes, hundreds of them, and you'll see very clearly that many of these perform very poorly and have a history of performing poorly. I've been asked this question too, is why would a company offer an index that has a history of poor performance? Well, there's probably a lot of reasons behind that, and I can't say for certain why a particular insurance company would offer a certain index that maybe hasn't had a good track record. Some of it may be because they just want to offer different options for people. That certainly is one. There may be incentives for the insurance company to offer these indexes from any of these Wall Street institutions. I can't really say for certain why some of these indexes are offered. But the reality is about 80% of them have pretty poor results. I'm talking 1, 2, 5% average annual returns over the past 5, 10 years, literally. So again, your odds of getting much in the way of returns is not very good. And that is, by the way, that is one of my pet peeves, It's one of the reasons why index products like index annuities, IUL, sometimes get a bad rap because people will invest in these and not get a very good result. Perfect example. I shared this story last week, I believe, with a client I met a couple of weeks ago, prospective client, I should say. His index he was invested in, one of them was the S&P 500, which is a great index, a great horse, a thoroughbred, and it actually, on its statement, showed last year it had a 32% return. The problem was the second piece of it, the rider. Those are the caps, rates, and fees. What are the limitations or enhancements that the company allows on these different indexes? Some, like a cap, is a limitation. If you have a 10% cap, for example, you cannot make more than 10% in a year. There's other options that have unlimited caps, no cap, for example. Fees, high fees, obviously reduce returns, and participation rates. There are participation rates that are, say, 50%, which means you would get half of the growth. And there's other participation rates that are 150%, for example, and even higher, where you get 150% of the gain of that index, which means if that index got a 10% return, your credit would be 15. It's not the cap, rate, and fee by itself. It's the combination of the three that the company offers that determines how much either your return is going to be curtailed or enhanced. Well, in this gentleman's example, as I shared, on his statement, S&P 500 index, a great one. NASDAQ is another. There's a number of other ones that are excellent also. But my point is, he had a 32% return, yet his cap was like 2.8%. So guess what his return was that year? 2.8, because he had that limiting factor. He had that cap. Now, we got products that have unlimited caps. Like I said, no caps, unlimited upside. But unless you know the combination, and this is what I do for people when they meet with me, is I literally show them the indexes, the horses. I show them which horses or indexes perform and which ones don't. I show them the 1, 5, 10 year. It's really abundantly obvious. You can see it. It's super clear. And that's proprietary. So sometimes I've been asked that, why I haven't seen this before. Well, probably 99% of agents and advisors don't have access to that information, frankly. Again, it's proprietary. It's not public. It's hard to obtain. But by showing you that, you can see, holy cow, this index is a really good one. It could get us a potential really strong return. And then the second piece of it is the rider. Now let's look at the combinations of the caps, rates, and fees. And does this company allow this index does it curtail or throttle the returns, or does it enhance the returns? And there's a wide variation. And even in the same products, you'll see indexes with tremendous enhancers and tremendous throttlers or curtailment of returns. And these are the things I actually show you. So I pull up the product sheets. I show you directly from the company what their enhancements or throttles are, and you quickly understand which indexes are the ones that are most likely to perform versus those that are not. I get this response consistently after somebody does meet with me looking at an index product, again, an index universal life or an index annuity, and they're like, wow, I learned a ton. I learned a lot of stuff I've never heard before, and these are sometimes very seasoned index investors who've owned multiple products, and almost invariably I'm able to bring information and education and a better understanding that they never received before from anyone else ever. That's the difference maker. That's the game changer. So if you want more information, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com. I'll be happy if you have an index product and you want to compare. I can even show you what your likely gains are going to be, whether you're in indexes that, again, are going to throttle your returns or enhance them. Most likely, almost every case, frankly, able to show increased returns. Now, I'm going to share some other stories just even from this week that was quite interesting. And I'm sharing these stories with people I'm meeting with here on a weekly basis because I'm finding this is what folks are probably likely the most interested in because I'm getting the most response from this. So I'm going to continue to share these stories because that's what you seem to want to hear. So this is great. And it's very educational. It helps educate people to better understand these products, whether you happen to have one already, which again, you should contact me to get a comparison, or if you're considering these types of things. Because one of the main benefits of all index products, index universal life, index annuities, is they all guarantee the downside. So you have no downside risk. And that's becoming a very important factor for a lot of people because of the extreme valuations that we've seen recently in the markets. So a lot of people have run up, made some money, and they're concerned about the downside or a correction. Well, that's the beautiful thing about any of these products with any of these companies, is they protect the downside. And then what I can do is, given your situation, given your age, how much you're looking to invest, that type of thing, I'll actually pull up the report. I have a program that will search different products. And like the one I did earlier for somebody today, there was over 300 different options available, products for this particular client in this state for her age and amount she wanted to invest. All I need is your age, how much you want to invest, and what state you're in. And I'll do that with you like on a Zoom call, so you'll see it live. You'll see right off the gate, boom, this is, and I'll scroll through and you'll see, and then we can sort them by who's got the most upside, perhaps whether that has a bonus or not, how many years you're investing. We can sort it by any number of different criteria, all dependent on what you're looking for. I get asked this all the time. Why hasn't somebody shown me this before? Like, show me all the different options that are actually available. Well, one of the primary reasons is very few agents and advisors are truly independent, like myself. It's estimated about 10% of agents and advisors are truly independent. What do I mean by that? Well, they have access to basically nearly any product with any company out there. 80 to 90% of agents and advisors work with some organization. And you know the names. You've heard all the different financial organizations that are out there. And one of the limiting factors of that, no offense, but if somebody works with one of these banks or one of these Wall Street firms or one of these organizations, they can only offer the products that are available through that organization. It does limit what they can offer. By being independent, I can literally offer just about any product, any company, any state. I can offer the best product available in the country. I was looking at this one today, for example, and this gentleman was looking at a guaranteed income rider. So he had invested an X amount of money, and in 10 years, he was going to receive $11,000 a year in income guaranteed for life. That was the plan he had just purchased less than a year ago. And I pointed out to him, and just doing a quick search took us about a minute. The proprietary program spit out 10 different companies that were offering him from between $15,000 to $20,000 a year guaranteed income at year 10. So based on his contribution, the amount of income he could receive was nearly double guaranteed versus what he had just done. Now, of course, there was a penalty to get out. In his case, he had a 9% penalty to get out of this product, but I have companies that offer up to 27% bonuses, which will offset the penalty. So the bottom line is, with a 9% bonus and a 27%, with a 9% penalty and a 27% bonus, he's way ahead of the ball game right out the gate. Plus, his guaranteed income would have been nearly double after the fact. That's, again, if he wanted guaranteed income. I also showed him where he could grow his money, because here's the other thing I run into quite often. He asked me the question, he goes, well, I wasn't really looking for income. I wanted growth. I said, well, you have an income product here. It's strictly really geared for income, not growth. He goes, that's not what I wanted. He asked me why whoever he had worked with had given him this income-focused product. And as I respond, because I get to ask this quite often, by the way, because it wasn't really a fit of what he was looking for, I said, the only thing I can think of is there was a miscommunication between you and the agent you were working with. They either misunderstood or they didn't listen. I don't know what the case may be, but I do run into this very, very often. It opened his eyes to what he really had, and then I showed him again something so much better that he is obviously looking at switching that over because he's going to be far ahead. Which brings me to, I think, two very common misconceptions, probably the two most common misconceptions with index products, particularly with index annuities: bonuses and guaranteed lifetime income. And I'm going to share when these should be used and when they should not, and dispel any myths. So I'm going to encourage you to stay tuned in the next segment.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ferenc Toth. Want more information? Contact parents at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. Now back to the show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. This is Ference. If you want to reach me, you can do so at yourpersonalbank.com. Yes, you will reach me. It's yourpersonalbank.com. So in the first segment, I was sharing some of the game-changing things I'm doing for folks when they meet with me in terms of maximizing returns on their index products, whether it's index universal life or index annuities. And in most cases, just like the story I shared with the person I met with today, I showed them where the guaranteed lifetime income we could provide to them was nearly double to what they were going to receive with their current product. I run into this often. I also shared another person I met with last week where his index, one of the indexes he was invested in with his annuity, was 32%. The S&P 500 actual return showed that on the statement, yet he had a cap rate of like 2.8%. So his return was only 2.8. And I showed him a product had unlimited cap, and you would get 80% of the upside gain. So his return would have been more like 25% versus 2.8. Nearly a tenfold increase in return. That is the difference, folks, of having the right index and the correct strategy. It's having the fastest horse with the best rider so you can win the race. You can have a great horse and a bad rider or vice versa and still lose. You have to have both. It's a combination of both. And if you don't know what indexes to be invested in, and by the way, your agent advisor probably doesn't really know either unless they actually have a performance report. If you have not seen, if your agent, or I'll say this, if your agent or advisor, when you purchased your index annuity or IUL, index universal life product, if they did not show you a performance report, 1, 5, 10-year results of what this index has done, actual returns, you really should get a comparison. About 80% of indexes average low single digits over a 10-year period. And about 20% of them really shine, many of them 10, 12, even 14% returns, average annual returns per year. Now, this past couple of years have been even better than normal. So many of my clients have been seeing 20 and 22% returns on their index products. But if you have not been shown the index performance report on the indexes you're invested in, you're doing yourself a major, major disservice because you have no idea what the potential upside is of your index annuity or your index universal life. You could have a great product and be with a great company even, but invested in the wrong indexes, so your results will be very, very subpar. And that's where it's a lot of the times, this is one of the myths I'm trying to dispel, help people understand and educate. It's one of the causes of where index products have kind of gotten a bad rap because the returns aren't that great. Well, the primary reason is you're in the wrong indexes or the wrong strategies to be able to maximize returns. You want to be in a situation to do that, and I can show you exactly how to do that. We do a Zoom call. I show you, you see how the sausage is made. I show all the different companies. You'll see hundreds literally available, indexes available. I'll show you the performance report of hundreds of indexes, 1, 5, 10 years, so we can see exactly what they do. And then I'll show you the product sheet where it shows us where the enhancers or where the companies either enhance or curtail the results, the returns you can receive. There's a wide variation, folks. It's a very big difference. So I encourage you to do that. Now, the two common misconceptions I run into quite often. And the first one's probably easier, so I'm going to explain this one. It has to do with bonuses. Again, I have products that offer up to a 27% signing bonus. Gosh, that sounds great on the surface. And what I find is a lot of what, in my opinion, I call less experienced, we call them rookie agents. They would tend to lead with the bonus because it sounds great. It's the shiny object. It's easy to sell. But in most cases, it's not necessarily the best case scenario for the client in terms of maximizing growth. When should a bonus be used and when should it not be used? Well, there is a time and a place for a bonus product. And that is when somebody has an existing product, an existing index annuity, for example, and it's subpar. I can use the gentleman I met with last week where again, he had the S&P 500 index, but at like a 2.8 annual cap, which means 2.8% annually is the most he could make per year. I mean, that's pathetic. I'm sorry. And I was showing him index strategies averaging 10 and 12 and 14% average annual returns with no downside risk. And over the past decade, literally. And he had this index annuity, by the way, owned it for the past 9 years, and his average return on that had been 2.2% actual returns. By moving him from his existing annuity to a new one, doing a rollover, a 1035 exchange, which would be a non-taxable event, we could literally increase his returns likely 4- or 5-fold, if not more. So a tremendous increase in gains going forward. If the index goes up, he's going to make some money in the new product, where in the old one, he's been languishing. The problem was he had a 12% penalty to get out. That keeps a lot of people from considering changing because they think, oh gosh, I can't move because of this big penalty. Well, as I stated earlier, we have products that offer up to 27% signing bonus. In his case, a 27% signing bonus on the new product minus the 12% penalty put him about 15% ahead of the ball game, literally day one. That's the purpose of a bonus. It's to pay off any penalties from the existing product to get you into a better product. And by the way, that 15% bonus, with his 2.2% average, I mean, we were moving him forward by, 7 or 8 years? So in one fell swoop, we were equaling about 7 years of returns he had gotten on this previous index annuity he had owned for the past 9 years. So that's a tremendous move forward. Now, the limiting factor on any bonus product is this. The upside gains will not be as strong as they are on a non-bonus index annuity. Why? If the company's going to give you a signing bonus up front, they're going to have to take something away to remain profitable. There's no free lunch. So what they're going to do is they're going to curtail your upside gains more so than a non-bonus product. And you will find, on average, if you have a bonus product versus a non-bonus product, and it could be even with the same company even, your gains, your growth will be equal typically around year 5 to 7. After that point, the non-bonus product outperforms the company that paid you the bonus because you have more upside gains, more upside potential. Now, this is something I can show you it's a little hard, maybe a little more difficult to explain over a radio show, but I can show you very visually through a Zoom meeting. I'll show you the caps, rates, and fees, your upside potential gains on a product that has a bonus versus one that does not. The upside potential gains on a non-bonus, a product without a bonus, is typically nearly double. So your upside gains potentially, your returns are going to be about double on average than if you got paid a bonus. Now, if we go back to the example of the gentleman I was just explaining who had averaged 2.2% average return over the last 9 years, and we give him a 15% bonus, pay off his 12% penalty, so he's ahead of the ball game, his upside potential with the new product was still at least double, if not triple, his old product because of the caps, the rates, the fees. That's the rider. You got to have the fast horse and the good rider, right? What are the enhancements or the throttles that the company puts in place that determines how much you can make on these indexes each year? It's called caps, rates, and fees. And these are things I'll go over with you to show you what your upside potential really is. No games. Numbers straight from the company. Straightforward. So it was clear in his case, he needed a bonus to pay off that big penalty of 12%, a new product that, although would not have the upside gains as much as, say, an annuity without a bonus, it was still at least 2 to 3 times better than what he had. So it was a good place for a bonus to be used. That's what the bonus is designed for. But if you don't need one, in most cases, I recommend folks not chase the shiny object. Because if your goal is to maximize your growth, would you rather have your upside growth potential be double per year or halved? Clearly, most people over the next 5, 6, 7 years want to see more money in their account than less. And that's why typically, in most cases, it's better to go with a product that can maximize your upside growth with no downside risk. You'll have more money than trying to chase the shiny object of the bonus Because one analogy I use for another client, and I remember these numbers because I just did this literally yesterday, is they had 30,000, they had 24,000 they were investing into a index annuity, and they were going to get a $6,000 bonus, so they would have had 30,000 in the account right away. But the average return on that product was about 5 or 6%, where a non-bonus product with the 24K average returns about more like 10, 12%. So my point was to hers, I pointed out, and we ran the numbers. Would you rather average 10 or 12% on 24 grand? Or would you rather average 5 or 6% on 30 grand? Well, if you pull out a calculator real quick, the average return the first year was like $1,800 less with the bonus product. And if you add that up over 5, 6, 7 year period, you quickly figure out you actually have more money without the bonus because you have more upside gains. That's the difference. Now, there's some people that will argue, well, I'm not certain what the markets are going to do, the economy going forward. I'm really concerned. Hey, we have options where you can get a guaranteed 7+% guaranteed the first year, and then get into some indexes and good, strong upside potential growth thereafter. So if you think this next year is going to be kind of lousy, well, why not lock in a 7% plus return? This is real money, not a bonus, real money, and let your money grow this next year, and then let's relook at it a year from now and get you into indexes that have good, strong upside potential with no downside risk. Here's the other point I often run into. Folks will make about, well, I don't want to get into the index product because I think the market may not go up or it may even go down. Here's the thing you need to understand about index products. Remember, they guarantee the downside. Also, when you get a gain, whatever that gain is, that locks in each year. That becomes your new principal. So they guarantee the principal year in and year out. If you own an index universal life or an index annuity, you want one of two things to happen. You want the indexes, the market, to either go up, obviously, because then you make money, or you want it to go down, because if it goes down, you don't lose. Remember, they guarantee the principal. But you also reset at the lower index number. This is super powerful. So if you see a situation where index goes up one year, you lock in that gain, the next year it drops, you stay at the higher number. And then when the markets recover, and they do, when it recovers, guess what happens? You recover with the higher amount of money. If you look at any decade period of time with a good index annuity product or good IUL, and you take out those downside years, which on average is 2 to 3 of every 10-year period, the market has a downturn or correction. That's just statistical fact. If you take out those downsides, you don't participate in those, in most cases, you actually have more money if you've just been in the market riding the up and down, if you know what I'm saying. But the key to that is having to be in the right indexes, good, strong indexes, fast horses, and have good strategies, a good rider that allow for or even enhance your upside gains. If you do that, again, in most cases with my clients, they end up with more money at the end of a decade than less if they had just invested directly with the market. And the beautiful part of all that is they didn't put anything at risk. They locked in whatever gains they got each and every year, so they didn't have to worry about the corrections or the downside, reduced their stress, reduced any anxiety or anything like that, risk tolerance, all that good stuff. They were able to just live their lives. And that's what I love about these index products. I think I covered when to use a bonus versus when not to. Next segment, I'm going to clear up another common misconception about index products, particularly fixed index annuities versus guaranteed lifetime income. There's a lot of misconceptions regarding this, so I want to address that and clear that up too, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth. Want more information? Contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. Now back to the show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. This is Ference. If you want to reach me, you can do so at yourpersonalbank.com. Yes, you will reach me. It's yourpersonalbank.com. Look, if you missed the first couple of segments and you want to learn more about index products and the common misconceptions with these and how to really maximize your returns with no downside risk, I strongly encourage you to go go to yourpersonalbank.com or the Your Personal Bank app. You can listen to any of the previously recorded shows. Each has its own topic. I think you'll find it really extremely valuable and educational. So in the first segment, I really discussed about how to maximize returns using proprietary software. The key to this is, were you shown a performance report of the indexes you're invested in? If not, you need to have a second opinion because you have no idea what those indexes are likely to perform. You should have seen a 1, 5, 10-year report on what those indexes have done. If not, you have missing information. And by the way, unfortunately, most advisors and agents do not have access to this information. It's not public record. I do have access to, there was over 600 different indexes. I have access to that through proprietary software, and I'm told less than 1% of agents and advisors do. This is game-changing, folks. So that's one big key. You can't win a race. You can't win a horse race without a fast rider, and you have to have a good index. About 80% of them perform average low single digits over the past decade. It's just a fact. About 20% perform really well, 10, 12, 14% average annual returns over a decade. Massive difference. And then you have to look at the indexes themselves and whether the company allows you to enhance or they curtail your growth. And that's all based on caps, rates, and fees. And I will show you the difference in a Zoom call. You'll see it, show you how the sausage is made. And that's how you can ensure to maximize your upside gains when the markets do well. And of course, no risk, no loss to the principal when the markets do poorly. Other thing I clarified in the last segment was bonuses. When to use a bonus and when not to use a bonus. There's a time and a place for them. Offset a surrender fee, say, from a different company because you want to move to a better product to get a better return, and the signing bonus can help offset that penalty. But generally speaking, your overall gains are going to be less than if you have a product with no bonus because there's no free lunch. If a company gives you a bonus, they're going to take something away, aren't they? And what they're going to take away is your gains. And by the way, they cut your gains typically in about half. So your upside gain per year is going to be about half of what a non-bonus product would have. But again, if you have a penalty, you need to get out of it, and it's still a better product, even with a half gain, which I run into quite a bit, it's worth doing. But generally speaking, if you don't need a bonus, you don't need to overcome a penalty, why not just maximize your gains and let your account just grow? Insured, guaranteed, with safety, no downside risk, and maximize growth. The other common misconception is guaranteed lifetime income. So a lot of these products are sold with the idea or the misconception or the client misunderstands, whether it's intentionally or otherwise, thinking that these guaranteed lifetime income riders are actually cash. They're not. You have to understand the terminology and the difference. You either have an index product, particularly we're really focusing now on fixed index annuities. It's really common and rampant even in this industry, in this product. And that is you have an accumulation value or a cash value. That's cash, that's growth, that's real money that you can access and grow over time and supplement retirement or do whatever it is you want to do with it in the future. A guaranteed lifetime income rider, think of it as it's a pension check. It's a guaranteed lifetime income. It's similar to operates like a Social Security or a pension check. And many of these products will have roll-ups. They'll have guaranteed roll-ups of 7, 8, 9% even per year. Some of them will pay upwards of a 10, 20, 30% bonus even on your income, not on the cash. Here's the key thing you need to understand, or the difference. It's a roll-up or guaranteed increase on income, not on cash. So I was looking at one just today where a gentleman had invested about $85,000 into what he thought was a growth product, but it was actually a guaranteed lifetime income product. Why? Because as we looked at the charts and the numbers, it showed the cash decreasing over time. In fact, over about 10 or 15 years, the cash actually, in his case, went to zero. The guaranteed lifetime income, he got a bonus. It was 30%, strong bonus. His guaranteed lifetime income amount increased to over $200,000 in a few years. Now, as I pointed out to him, the $200,000 was not money he could withdraw and spend. No, what it allowed him to do was, for example, at year 7 or 8, he was able to withdraw $11,000 a year income guaranteed for life. Now, by the way, that's not very good numbers because I showed him 10 companies. I just did a quick search for him, and I have software that can guarantee all the guaranteed lifetime income product companies out there. All I need is your age, your state, how much you're going to contribute, and when do you want to start the income. If I got those 4 pieces of information, it took us less than a minute. I spit out 10 companies that would pay him guaranteed lifetime income at year 7 or 8, and the lowest was $15,000 a year, and the highest was like $21,000 a year. $21,000 is a whole lot better than 11. If he wanted guaranteed lifetime income, I showed him, hey, I can nearly double your income, guaranteed for life, no questions asked. Now, what's the strength of it? The strength of it is exactly what I stated. There is no moving parts. It's all guaranteed. You put X amount in based on your age, and when you start taking it out, you will receive that amount of money guaranteed for life, and regardless of how long you live, that check will continue to come. So if you're looking to create or set up or establish a guaranteed lifetime income, just like it states, that can be a great tool. Yes, there are products that increase your income by upwards of 30% as a bonus, and will roll up. Got products that roll up, increase by 9% per year. In other words, it increases the amount of income you'll receive each year you defer by up to 9% a year. So if you're looking for guaranteed lifetime income, I can show you the best products available. Again, I'm totally independent. And by the way, on that search, I showed them there are literally hundreds of products available, and I can sort them by the ones that offer the highest income in the country, period. If you have this and you want to compare, I'll be happy to do that for you. Contact me at yourpersonalbank.com. So that's the strengths. The strengths of guaranteed lifetime income is this: no moving parts. Everything's guaranteed. There's no risk. There's no question. And the income you're going to receive once you start it is guaranteed for the rest of your life. So it's longevity insurance. You cannot outlive the money. If that's what you're looking for, I'll show you the best thing available. But here's the limitations that a lot of people do not realize about guaranteed lifetime income. First, most common, like this gentleman I spoke to, thinking that 200,000 number, that income number, was cash. It's not. It's an actuarial number that determines how much you can withdraw per year, how much they will pay you per year, guaranteed for life. And there's 2 moving parts on these that help determine how much income you're going to get. Yes, how much you contribute, and your age is 2 of those factors. The third one is when you start, but there's 2 other factors. There's the roll-up rate, which is what the agents and marketers like to share. A higher roll-up rate sounds great. Would you rather see your income increase by 7% a year versus 9% a year? Well, obviously the 9 sounds better, but there's one other missing piece that most people don't realize, and why the proprietary software is so important to really find out how to maximize your guaranteed lifetime income. And that missing piece that most people are unaware of is your guaranteed withdrawal rate. In other words, how much percentage of that income account number can you withdraw each year? Well, in that gentleman's case, looking at with his age and his situation, the company would only allow him to withdraw something like 5.25% per year of his total. And that's why it was limiting how much he could receive. Well, there's different companies that will allow you to withdraw 6 or 7% even annually each year, guaranteed for life, which means you'd have a whole lot more money. So it's not just about your roll-up rate, folks, on guaranteed lifetime income. It's not just about the bonus. It's also what about the withdrawal rate. And that's the part that almost nobody talks about. When I do the computer program, it calculates all that. And it spits out, bottom line, how much money you're going to receive guaranteed. Because isn't that what counts? Who cares what your bonus is? Who cares what your roll-up rate is? None of that matters if your withdrawal rate is too low. What matters is how much money are you going to receive? Am I right? Or am I right? So I can show you that. If you have that or considering that guaranteed lifetime income, again, I'm going to encourage you, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com. I just need those few basic pieces of information, and literally we can run a search, and it'll take us less than a minute, and you can watch me do it. If you're doing a Zoom call, I'll show you how the sausage is made. and you'll see all the options. You'll see there's hundreds of them, but it'll sort them by who's going to pay you the most. And you can be assured that you're going to get the highest income you could get that's available in the country by any company, period. I like using guaranteed lifetime income riders for folks maybe on the little bit older side, because here's the advantage of what they have. The amount you can draw increases each year as you age. So this is the one financial product, one of the few, that the older you are, the better it is. So if somebody's getting on the older side of things, and by the way, when I say older, I'm talking 80s, 85, 90s, plus, okay? We start getting older ages, guaranteed income riders can sometimes be a really, really good tool because they know that money's going to come in no matter what, no matter how long. So these are considerations that have to be taken in place to ensure you're really getting the best bang for your buck and you're making the best decision with your money. So in my opinion, guaranteed income riders are marketed and sold oftentimes far too often, and in cases that isn't probably in the best interest or really what the client's looking for, and they misunderstand, thinking they've got more than they really have, or just maximizing growth on your money is probably the better route in most cases. Not all, but in most cases. So I hope that makes some sense. If you have any questions or you want to look into it further, a lot of my clients will allocate some money to some guaranteed lifetime income. They want to allocate some to some guaranteed growth. We want to mix the indexes, do some diversification, maybe do some IULs, minimize taxes and increase liquidity. We do some whole life potentially because we want guaranteed growth, consistent, steady eddy growth, and we want to access 95% of the money against it early on because we want to invest in other assets or business or whatever we're doing. These are all tools I use, and it truly is about what is your goal, what are you trying to accomplish, and we'll find the tool that fits you the best. Now, I know I discussed a lot of product information here, but I've been getting so many questions about this. I felt like it was necessary to share this, but I'm going to encourage you to stay tuned in the last segment. There is some current economic news with affordability and housing I'm just going to encourage you to stay tuned.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth. Want more information? Contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. Now back to the show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. This is Ference. If you want to reach me, you can do so at yourpersonalbank.com. Yes, you will reach me. It's yourpersonalbank.com. Look, if you missed the first three segments, I'm just going to encourage you to go to the Your Personal Bank app or the Your Personal Bank website. You can listen to this or any of the previously recorded shows. I discussed a ton of information about index products. I dispelled a number of very common myths. How do you maximize growth? How do you get the performance reports? How do you know what these indexes are actually going to perform, what you're invested in? If you weren't shown that information, you really should contact me. Or if you're considering it, that's the game changer. That's how you maximize growth. Also, bonuses. When should a bonus be used? When should it not be used? What's the benefits? What's the downside of bonuses? I shared that. And also guaranteed lifetime income versus accumulation, cash, actual growth. What's the difference? What's the strengths and limitations? If you missed all that, again, go to the website, go to our Your Personal Bank app, check it out. I think you'll find it very interesting. There's been a lot of attention lately to affordability, and particularly housing affordability. I found this interesting. It turns out the national median rent for apartments in November fell another 1%, and it has done so for the fourth month in a row. Apartment rentals are now about 5% lower than they were in their 2022 peak. There's been about 2.5 million illegals who have either been deported or self-deported this year. It's really common sense, basic supply and demand. If you have less demand, prices go down. I shared this several years ago with John Burley, who's been a frequent guest of ours. He's a real estate expert. He knows more about real estate than anybody I know. When Trump was promising the largest deportation program in history, I said, if he gets elected and he does deport millions of people, what's that going to do to real estate prices? And he kind of paused. He said, bottom line is it's going to cause prices to go down because it's basic supply and demand. There's no secret that there's a housing shortage in this country. If less people are living in the country, we're having a net decrease of population, that will start to push prices down. And we're starting to see that with apartment rentals, which is probably most likely where you would see it first. And I saw this other point. It's not just housing, but this article pointed out that the reason food is so expensive is because 42 million people are getting it for quote unquote free. Now, it's not really free. It's a food stamp program. Most of us were shocked to learn recently that 42 million people were on the food stamp program. You know, that's about 1 in every 7 people in this country. That's a shocking amount of people. And where does that money come from? Well, obviously from the taxpayers, which is also then increasing the cost of basic necessities like food. But these people are receiving thousands of dollars of benefits. I was watching several YouTube videos with my wife, and she's not as into the politics and up-to-date stuff as I am. I used to not be either, but, you know, I do this radio show, and this is the kind of stuff that people are interested in. Obviously, this is what I do for a living. And so I have to I keep on top, do a lot of research on a weekly basis. So I see this all the time. Well, we were watching this YouTube video, and they were showing various people who were posting videos about, you know, them shopping and what they were buying, and some were even bragging. A couple of them were bragging, making fun of not having to pay for stuff. And are you upset or you feel like a sucker? I guess one of them got caught, so that was kind of fun to see. But anyway, you know, karma. You know, we're a generous country. We're generous people. Most people, including myself, have no problem a helping hand when somebody needs it. But when you see somebody like one of them where she was clearly, I'm going to say, in her mid-30s, and her food stamp program had just been shut down, and she was filming herself in the grocery store complaining that for the first time in her life, she had to look at prices. I mean, that is, for most of us that go to the grocery store, we're very cognizant of what we're spending. And that's really frustrating when you're paying into the system and you have to pay attention to it. And this other person has this incredible sense of entitlement and has no idea of what things cost. Like I said, I just used to throw stuff in that I needed, stuff I didn't need. It didn't matter because the card would just get refilled the next month anyway. And now I'm having to, you know, buy store brand stuff instead of name brand stuff. You know, it's hard to feel sorry for those types of folks. And then there was another person that was laughing basically at us, the taxpayers, because she was only paying $50 a month for rent, and she was on food stamps and all these other things. And then they showed the next video where she was crying because I guess somebody saw her posting, which is not a good idea, obviously, and she just lost those benefits. But what I found interesting is my wife, who's a very generous person. She's truly a sweetheart. She has a postmaster's degree. She was a social worker. You know, she's a helping person, okay? And that's just in her DNA, and that's who she is. I love her for that. She has a softer approach to many of these things than I do. But you could just see the frustration and anger well up in her watching these videos of these people taking advantage of the system and the unfairness of it all. So this isn't just an economic issue, although it is. But having 42 million people on a food stamp program, clearly there's a ton of fraud and a ton of people who don't belong on the system or just gaming the system. And I'm thankful that finally starting to be some accountability. It's been sorely needed. It's way past due. And a lot of people, when they talk about immigration, their reference point is the Ellis Island era. And they were often escaping difficult situations, primarily in Europe. They were eager for a better opportunity and a second chance. And they wanted to become Americans. Many of them were tremendously proud of the fact that when they would become a citizen and integrate into the country, they'd learn our language. They wanted to be a part of this grand experiment of freedom that we had as America. But the reality is the foreign-born share of the U.S. population, both in percentages and total numbers, is far higher than it was even in the peak of the Ellis Island era. Now, we have more people coming here, percentage-wise and total numbers, than we did then. And the immigrants that we have today, legal and illegal, by the way, oftentimes have no desire to integrate into our society, learn our language, or any of that. In fact, oftentimes, many of them actually hate this country and are just here to take advantage of the freebies. And that's incredibly, incredibly frustrating. The official U.S. foreign-born population is now at 53 million people. Now, I believe the total numbers in the U.S. is around 350 million. So again, we're looking at about 1 out of every 7 people are foreign-born in this country. 48% of families receiving food assistance, food stamps, are illegal aliens, nearly half. Legal immigrants account for another 34%. In other words, over 80% of all the food stamp recipients are immigrants, legal and otherwise. And when people see these kinds of numbers, why am I paying taxes to this? Why am I supporting these people who oftentimes don't want to integrate and in many cases literally hate this country? And another study shows that only the top 10% of legal immigrants, these are the legal ones, become a net tax contributor. See, we often get fed this story that, well, the immigrants help contribute to the society. Well, the economic facts are only the top 10% actually contribute more than they take. And we need to get back to this baseline like Marco Rubio stated, our Secretary of State. No one is entitled to a student visa, or any visa for that matter, to enter the United States. Not one. It's not a constitutional right, and it's not guaranteed by law. Every day, consular officers deny visas for all kinds of reasons, suspicion of overstaying, criminal associations, or whatever. Visas are denied worldwide daily, and no one is entitled to one. There's a misconception that you're automatically allowed a visa unless we find a reason to deny it. That is not true. Burden of proof is the other way around. So we have the right to deny visas before entry and revoke them after entry if someone's presence undermines our national security or our interests. And really the standard, I think, for immigration really needs to come down to this. Does this person love America? Do they want to be a part of our society? Will they contribute to our society, or will they be a burden? Will this person's presence enhance life for the American people? Will this person likely assimilate? Would I want this person to stay in my house? Affordability has been such a big issue recently. We're short about 4 million houses. It's also estimated we have about 20 million illegals, if not more. We have 53 million foreign-born officially. What if we applied those standards? Do they love this country? Do they want to be a part of it? Do they want to assimilate? Will they be a net benefit or a burden? And if they're not, they should leave. What do you think would happen to the affordability crisis we have with housing, food, and everything else for that matter? We would have less crime, less congestion, more affordable prices, and just a better society all around. Stay tuned next week to the Your Personal Bank Show for more great information, and as long as it's on our money, in God we trust.
Contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422.
Concerned about market risk? I'm Ference Toth, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. The S&P 500 valuations are higher than at any time ever recorded in stock market history. This includes 1929 and 1999. We all know what happened afterwards. It wasn't pretty. Elevated valuations increase risk to the downside. Annuities and Your Personal Bank offer unlimited upside with no downside market risk. Your principal is guaranteed. Contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com to maximize returns, reduce market risk, increase liquidity, and reduce taxes.